let's look at this more as like an intimate conversation. However, I don't see your faces, but that's
I
okay.
know.
I wish I did. I wish I see all of your faces. And, you know, for those of you that aren't live and you're watching this later on, again, if you don't know who I am, I'm Tanya Avrith. I'm the education evangelist at Adobe. And I'm a teacher, and I'm really passionate about the topics that we're talking about, especially today. So I'm going to dive right in, because these are genuinely like, the ones that we're talking about today are probably the ones that I feel most passionate about, because they're the ones that I've spent the last decade really having conversations with teachers and students around. So let me share my screen. In today's webinar, we're going to be looking at personal branding. I'm going to talk a little bit about branding in general as the modern, take on digital citizenship, because we've been talking about digital citizenship for a while, but I think it really needs to evolve. I'll look at fluency versus literacy, and kind of just touch on the difference between digital fluency and literacy, and talk a little bit about where you might begin when you're approaching this topic with students. And I'm going to share my experience, because I actually taught a class last year on personal branding. I taught a full course to high school students. It was a mandatory class, and so I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to look at why student creations matter. And that's going to tie into assessment. So we're going to look at it through the lens of assessment that matters. Because I know, we have to do a lot of assessments, but I'm really passionate about assessment. And I'll explain to you why when we get there. Then we're going to look at digital workflow. And I'm going to talk a little bit about like how you're using the different tools together, because I think sometimes we get caught because we're so used to that physical workflow of like turning things in or handing them out. So I want to talk a little bit about, ways and strategies and tips that you might use in your class around digital workflow, and how it all comes together when we look at it through the lens of creation. So we're going to talk a little bit about app smashing. And then we'll talk a little bit about ideas to get started in your classroom.